Very good evening, everyone. I'm Shilpa and I welcome you all to Shiksha webinar on the topic of Air Force Common Admission Test Preparation Tips. Well, this is a national level exam that is conducted by Indian Air Force, and to ace the AFCAT exam, candidates must prepare well by going through the exam pattern, syllabus, other criteria beforehand. Apart from this, you have to be emotionally, physically, mentally fit to be an Air Force officer. Do you know that? Okay, so today to guide us better on such facts and FCAT preparation, we have a person who has cleared FCAT twice, along with EKT, which means the Engineering Knowledge Test. There are many more achievements on her list. Let's welcome Sonakshi Thakur. Sonakshi, first of all, as you have several feathers on your hat, I would request you to give a brief introduction about yourself.
Hello, Shilpa. Thank you so much, first of all, for such a warm welcome. Hi, everybody. My name is Sonakshi Thakur. I graduated in 2019 from one of the colleges in Pune, which is DY Patil. Right after that, I started working with Vodafone UK. I worked there for 2 years, and now, since last 1 year, I'm working as a business analyst in Quantify. I am on notice period at the moment, and I will be joining Lancaster University Management School for my master's in business analytics, which is in UK, probably in a month or so. So that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Thank you, Sonakshi, for fetching out time for this webinar. I know your schedule must be very busy. I have understood that. Okay. And to the students, feel free to send your questions to me through Q&A box or in the chat box. And I shall try to get to all your queries answered by our expert for this session after a quick discussion with her. Coming back to you, Sonakshi. Uh, just I want to inform you is that the moment we started the registration for this webinar, student started sending questions related to FCAT. Though for that we feel very glad. So in India, if I'll talk about, many students want to become an Air Force officer, but they don't know the right way to get into it. For that matter, FCAT is also not very well known by many. So, like Pavitra and Brushali have the similar question. They want to know about FCAT. Can you please just tell us?
All right. Answering to the first thing that you said, Shilpa, about the registration that you got right after, you launched this webinar. So I am very glad to just know that, today in India, there are youth who are not just driven towards IT work, and they are actually looking forward to be a defense aspirant right now. So it's actually a proud moment for me to, just get to know that here as well. Now, apart from that, how do you get into this particular field? See, there was this one question that one girl asked me if she can join FCAT or she can just join Indian Air Force, or for that matter, any of the defense forces. You can't join it right after 12th. All right. If you're joining it, that won't be as a class one or grade A officer post. All right. So when we talk about FCAT, it is basically, one of those exams in India wherein you get admission only in Indian Air Force. So that's exclusive to this particular defense force itself. And apart from that, what happens is it requires one of the graduation degrees. So you don't have to be necessarily an engineer, but then you must have a degree of at least 3 years. All right. So any sort of degree would suffice. But then when we talk about FCAT, it also comes along with one more exam, which is EKT. So for you to give EKT, you must be an engineer. All right. Now, when I say engineer, you must not be any engineer, but then there is again, EKT can be given by only three fields. All right. So when I talk about that, it's necessarily, let's say, computer engineer, there is electronics engineer and mechanical engineer. So if you're doing your engineering in these three fields, you can definitely go ahead and give the EKT, and after EKT you can become a technical officer. But even after that, even if not giving the EKT, you still have two more options, to become a flying officer and to become a non-technical officer, and both of these places are also class 1 or grade A officers. So that makes you, the top-notch officer in Indian Air Force any which ways. So that's how you do it.
Thank you for answering that. Next up, we have a bunch of curious people like Shreya, Arya, Biti, Lavanya, Riya, Damodar Patra. They have a similar question. They want to know about the eligibility criteria.
All right. So in FCAT specifically, what happens is everybody is eligible. All right. So when we talk about the defense defense exams, it does not, it is basically not partial to any of the people of any of the caste, religion, what salary background your parents come from, what is your education qualification. So none of these matters. You are definitely eligible for that. It's just that you must have a graduation degree of at least 3 years, of course, and then you can definitely go ahead and apply for it. That's it. And you just need to mark this one point, that this particular thing is only eligible till you're 24 years old. After that, you won't be eligible to apply for it. So you have to have it between 20 to 24 years of age, is what I believe.
And before we proceed, there are several attendees who want to ask you question and they are raising their hands. So to them, I would request you please share your questions in the chat box or in the Q&A box. Then I'll take up those questions and I'll ask Sonakshi. Okay, moving ahead with this. There's a question. What all position do it caters when a person gets selected for FCAT?
All right. So, like I said, it's a class one officer role. All right. So once you get selected in FCAT, all right. So FCAT is the first step to it. You have to give AFSB after that as well, which is a 5 days, continuous rigorous course wherein you have to give a total of 18 tests altogether. All right. So once you clear that part as well and you get recommended, right after that, what happens is you start with flying officer post. All right. And then after that, you get promoted, you get flying lieutenant, squadron leader, wing commander. There are several posts. All right, there's air commodore, there's vice marshal, marshal, and so on. But then since it's a government post, right, so it takes you years to get promoted. All right, so that is why there are not a lot of air marshals in Indian Air Force, right? There's just one, and there's just one vice marshal. So you take some time to get promoted, definitely. But then there are a lot of posts. You will start from flying officer, basically.
Next up, we have a question from Rediappa Reddu, and he's asking, does the age limit varies from flying and ground branch? Basically,
It
age.
does not. It does not. So basically what happens is, when you're giving this FCAT exam, it is exclusive of what posts do you want. All right, you are not giving the exam considering that, okay, I will get into this flying branch, I'll get into the non-technical or technical branch. That is not in your hand at the moment. First of all, you need to clear the exam. That should be your first goal. And for you to clear the exam, you have to fill the form, of course, right? And for filling the form, you have to give your date of birth, correct? So now there, that is that one point where your date of birth comes into picture, and that is where you'll get analyzed if you're in between 20 to 24 years of age or not. And after that, it does not matter, all right, because you have already cleared the first stage of it. All right. So that is why it does not differ from which branch you're going to get into. All of them are grade A posts.
Okay, absolutely perfect. And okay, so I'm receiving several questions through Q&A box. So the next up, we have a question related to the educational qualification. We can divide it for the flying, for the ground technical and non-technical branches. If you could just guide us.
All right. So I'll just tell you briefly. All right, so what happens here is, um, when we talk about the eligibility criteria when it comes to your degree that you guys are pursuing, all right, so let's talk about the initial degree, maybe BCom, BBA, BSc, or any sort of science background degrees, engineering, etc. In the technical branch, it's just that in the technical branch you will be judged on the basis of what degree you're doing, all right, or what degree you have completed, which should be engineering. All right, it should be some sort of mastery in either electronics, either computer science, or not. If not this, then mechanical. Because what happens is, in the technical branch you will be dealing with the fighter jets that the flying officer will be flying. So you must be aware of all the parts, and how do you need to repair it, how do you need to check if that is just okay to fly ahead or not. All right, so that is why they prefer these three branches. All right, if you're not getting selected for the technical branch, or if you're not choosing the technical branch for yourself, degree does not matter. It does not matter if you're going to become a officer in the flying branch or the non-technical branch. Now when I talk about the non-technical branch, it is mostly the officers in the admin panel or the logistics panel, right? So they don't care about what degree you come from, but then you must have a degree is what the essential thing is. For technical, it might vary.
So what I've understood is that the 3 years degree which matters, the stream doesn't matter.
The stream does not matter. Yes, the 3 years degrees matter. Stream does not matter. Stream matters only if you're doing the technical branch. Only if you're doing the technical branch. And because for you to get selected into the technical branch, you have to give EKT. And in EKT, when you will be filling the form, right, you will see that you're getting only few options to choose from. Okay, that this is the degree that I've done, this is the course that I've done. So you have to make sure that you're doing or pursuing your degree in that particular format itself. Yeah.
Okay. Though you have already cleared it, but still we have received a question from Ritvika and she's asking, I'm an MBA student and pure commerce background. Would I be able to sit for the exam and what role will I be offered?
You can definitely sit for the exam. Like if you are still an MBA student, you might have completed your graduation, I believe. So you can definitely go ahead and sit for the exam. That's not a problem at all. That might become an add-on into your in the interview round as well, just because you are pursuing your masters at this particular moment, and you were not just waiting for this FCAT thing to happen, or you basically have this backup plan for you. Right. So it serves as it serves you as a person who is ready to take care of any of the obstacles if at all she does not get selected into FCAT. So it comes as a add on to your profile, so that's definitely a plus on. You definitely won't be able to apply for the technical branches, but then why not go for the flying officer post and the non-technical post.
Okay, so till now we have just done with the 10 minutes and you have explained what the FCAT is, the eligibility criteria, and the educational qualification required for all the three branches. So, related to that, we have a question which is, I would say, the most commonly asked question. Like the Tanishka Bhosle has this question: are the girls eligible for FCAT?
Well, the fact that I'm here and I'm here taking a webinar and I'm a girl myself just answers this particular question, that of course girls are eligible for that. And in fact, these days, if you see the statistics on Google, a lot of girls, in fact, I would say 55-45 is the ratio that you can see these days, that girls are actually applying for defense forces even more than, the last few decades. So it's just phenomenal to see the participants of girls these days. Yeah.
Okay, so we are receiving some questions related to the criteria and cutoff. So I'm sharing a link in the chat box. You people can have a look at it and you can click at the link and it will have all the written details there related to the FCAT. Okay, so do you want to add
Shilpa,
some?
yeah. Let me just add something here as well. With respect to the criteria and the cutoff marks, guys. Here, when we talk about the cutoff, no, it's a very open-ended question, all right? Because every single year, each year, you can give FCAT twice, right? And every single time that you're giving the FCAT exam, the cutoff will vary a lot. All right. So when I was giving FCAT, the first time I gave it, the cutoff was around 140 or something, and the second time I gave it, the cutoff was around 165. All right. So you cannot foresee what your paper will be like, what is the difficulty level of the paper, and what can be the cutoff of an exam. All right. So I would suggest, rather than going for the cutoff of your exam, that this is the cutoff, I might just prepare this much and just score 170, 180 or something. That would not really help you. You should rather focus on scoring 200 plus at least. Give all the mock test and try and score more than 200 plus no matter what, because it is not necessary the questions that you're preparing or the type of questions that you're preparing is exactly gonna come in your exam. So cutoff is just for your reference. Just make sure of it, because what happens is, right after FCAT exam you have to give SSB, and after the SSB there's this merit list that comes into picture. And in that merit list, they'll be assessing you based on how do I call it? They'll be basically assessing you based on how much you have scored in FCAT, how much you have scored in EKT, how much you have scored in AFSB. So if you're not scoring as much in FCAT, that basically puts you down the lane, or in terms of ranking in the merit list, and you might lose out on chances on going into the forces. So you basically have to make sure that you're scoring at least 30-40 marks above the cutoff marks.
And we have received few more questions. I'll quickly ask you.
Yeah.
Gitanjali has this question: what all roles non-technical branch opens to us?
In the non-technical branch, as far as I remember, you get this administration panel. All right, apart from that, there's this logistics panel as well, and there is air traffic control panel. All right, so these are the three major branches. There was one more that I couldn't remember as of now. You might want to just Google it, but then these are the major three branches that you get into mostly, because the fourth branch that I'm talking to, they don't have a lot of vacancies. The vacancies comes after like 4 or 5 years, and that to just one, so you don't really get into the fourth branch. But then yes, these are the three things. Air traffic control role is basically, you see these big towers in the airports, right? That the person who's just regulating all the jets and all of those, so you'll be working as, the officer there. Then there's administration panel, I believe everybody's just aware of it, and the logistics panel. So these are the three major branches.
I hope, Gitanjali, your question has been answered perfectly by Sonakshi. Okay, so the next up we have a question. Ma'am, what if I get the less rank? Can I be an Air Force officer even after that?
Less rank. Less rank in what per se? I didn't get it. Less rank in the merit list, or
In the merit list.
in the merit list. So if you're getting a less rank, see what happens is, no, let's say in the entire India there were total of 100 students who got selected. 100 means boys plus girls, all right? So 100 students got selected, and there is a vacancy of, let's say, 80 seats in total. So according to your merit list, they will rank all those 100 students from 1 to 100, and the last 20 people from 81 to 100 rank, they won't be able to get into the forces, because the vacancy is only for 80 people. So that is what happens. If you're not scoring as much, if you're just falling behind the ranks, or you're just at the last, you might not be able to make it into the forces. So that is what the pain point is, because you have to clear all your rounds, you have to clear all your exams, and then the merit list comes into picture. And if you don't get selected after that, you just get a really heartbroken. But that's the sad part about it. That's why people say that you have to score really well in the FCAT exam itself, to begin with. Yeah.
Right. Now let's discuss the FCAT examination pattern and strategies to attempt it. Like Sonakshi, you have appeared for the exam twice and cleared it. What all sections or types of questions usually do FCAT has?
All right. So, okay. So when we talk about the FCAT exam in particular, there are four sections to FCAT exam. All right. So we begin with, the first section would be English. The second section comes into picture is GK. The third section would be reasoning, and the fourth section, which is the major pain point again, is mathematics. All right. So these are the four sections that FCAT exam is divided into. Now, what are the preparation strategies? See, it might differ from person to person. For me, I personally didn't take any coaching, and I would suggest rest of the participants to not go ahead and take any coaching as well. Reason being, when you're so for me, YouTube was my teacher, all right? And what happens is, when you're actually so what I did was, initially I knew that I had to create a roadmap. What I did was, for all these four sections, all right, let's say it's English, all right, if you go to YouTube, all right, there you will find several YouTube channels who will be speaking about what is the syllabus of English, what is the syllabus of math section, then reasoning section, and GK section as well. Just jot down all the topics that are written over there, all right, which the YouTube person asks you to. And then what I did after that was, let's say in maths there were, like, ratios and proportions, there were percentages, time and distance, speed, etc. So what I did was, I just picked on one of the topics, let's say time and distance, all right. So what I used to do was, I used to just go to the YouTube, and I had this one thing in my mind, that for this one topic I need to make sure that I'm solving at least 15 to 20 types of questions, all right. And then after that, I used to do practice, all right. So what you need to understand here is, you need to basically understand the approach towards the question, which books won't serve you, all right. So for me, even in coachings, it won't serve you. In YouTube, what happens is, you get to choose your own teacher, all right. You can just see the teaching pattern of 10 different people, and you can just pick choose that, okay, this is the person that makes more sense to me, and I'll just continue watching this person's YouTube channel going ahead. So that way you can understand better. And what you need to understand is, you need to see the approach towards the question, all right. That helps you understand that, okay, even if something really strange and unique question pops up into the FCAT exam, then you can definitely go ahead and solve it because you're aware of the approach, so that is what happened with me. I focused on the approach more, and right after that I just made sure for every single topic I'm just solving at least 15-20 types of questions. And then of course a good practice is needed for mathematics. Same for English. If you're good with English, well and good. If you're not good with English, the questions are not that hard. All right, it's always on the moderate level, so you can definitely go ahead and do it. If you find it difficult, all right, going through the mock papers, you can definitely, again, what I'm saying is, YouTube serves the purpose. All right, it will just help you throughout. It has helped me throughout. And through YouTube, I don't think I took more than 1.5 to 2 months to prepare, along with my work schedule, which used to be approximately 10 to 11 hours. All right, so I used to study after that. So you can just go through YouTube, and it is going to just serve the purpose right for any of the things. Just one thing to notice here is, do not spend most of your time in learning GK, or just jotting down things for GK, because that's again a very open ended subject. All right, you can never just do the entire GK subject or the entire current affairs subject, or there are a lot of topics that comes in a picture: history, geography, then political science, defense, sports, current affairs. There are a lot of things. So even if you picture, so for me defense was one of my interesting topics, and I knew everything about it. So I chose that topic. I just made sure that I'm learning each and everything about it, be it from the history or from the future, etc. There will be one question based on air force for sure, so there's no doubt about it. So that is going to happen. And yeah, so basically you can go ahead and search on YouTube, and what you need to do. There's again one question that I remember that is definitely going to pop out is, what is the currency of this particular country, and what is the capital of this particular country. So that can also come definitely. And the awards, who received this award in past, and all of those things. So these are the few topics, and you can definitely find all this information on YouTube, and just go through it, mug it up if at all possible. For GK and rest, you'll have to have a good practice.
Okay. I have few questions to ask. You were talking about the approach towards the question is very important. When you say the approach towards the question, what exactly does it mean?
So when I say approach, so I was giving you an example of time and distance, right? So when I say time and distance, what happens mostly is, people, they would just see that, okay, in this question I have to find the speed, and time is given to me, distance is given to me, so I'll just go ahead and find the speed. Sometimes in question what happens is, you just have the speed, you don't have time at all, and you have to find the distance. In this case, you just have one variable in hand. All right, you don't have the second variable. How are you going to find the third variable? Here you need to understand that the second variable will be given in the question. It is just articulated in a format that you are not just getting the information. So for you to get the information from the question, you need to understand it in a way. So when you basically search on YouTube, these people, they read question one by one. They will tell you that this means this is something means this. So you can just make out through the entire question that this is the amount of information I have from this question, and now you can go ahead and solve a question, which is where most of the people miss out on. So that is the approach that I'm saying, that you don't have to mug up on the formulas, because there are no tough formulas at all right, you don't have to mug up on the formulas. You need to understand that, if there's something missing in the question, how you gonna work it out, and how you're gonna just get the answer. And that is something that is explained in YouTube really well.
Okay. So here in the chat box, I can see Arun Ashley, you have asked about any tip for NDA. It's in the next month. Though this session is not about NDA, this is about FCAT. Still, I'm sharing a link in the chat box. You can have a look at it and you can fetch all the details related to NDA. Okay, so the another question, Sonakshi, I wanted to ask you is that everything which is happening around us, it's all general knowledge, right? But your favorite one was the defense.
Hmm.
So what all resources did you use?
For my defense thing, again, it was mostly Google, and it was YouTube. All right. So on YouTube, basically, so when you just type on YouTube, right, all the current affair questions based on Indian defense system or defense forces, you will just see videos, because there are a lot of videos for UPSC, right? So you can just refer to it because it's more detailed. So you can just get the storyline, and you don't have to like mug up those answers, right? But on YouTube, again, there are videos where you can just go ahead and search it and you'll get all your answers. For me, I was a little aware of the type of questions. So basically, when you go through your mock tests or when you solve the previous year questions, you understand that, they might just ask you something about the ranks, they might ask you something about, you know, what are the perks that you get for the matter, the minimalistic questions that you would not even expect them to question you. They can just ask you anything. What are the missiles that is going to be launched this year? What are the jet airways? What are the jets that is getting exported and from which countries, and what are the types of jets? All right, so most of the jets that comes to India is from Russia or France. So what are the types of jets that come from Russia, and how many of them came there, right? And if and when the deal was made by India with Russia, how many were promised and how many did come right now and in which year? So it can be something like this, and you must be really aware of the current affairs for that matter. You must be very thorough with the news. And they don't ask you anything which happened 10 years back when it comes to defense. All right, they'll just ask you something very recent in last 1 to 2 years. So you can definitely go ahead and Google search it, what all KPIs do they have when it comes to defense, and just go through it. Just go through it, jot it down, make points and learn it out, is what the process was.
That your words, like, they most of the time do ask the recent activities. That's take off a lot of burden.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, definitely.
Okay. So the duration of the this FCAT test is 2 hours, right? Am I right?
Yes, yes, it's to
Okay.
us.
And it carries around 300 marks.
It carries around 300 marks plus 45 marks, sorry, plus 45 minutes for EKT if you're opting for it.
Okay. So,
Hmm.
moreover, it has negative marking. So, Sonakshi, I'm wondering, how did you manage the time? Because it seems like a race against time, getting 300 marks and two hours of time. How did you
Yeah.
manage it?
So for me, so you have to make your strategies, and when it comes to strategy, you need to know your own strategy. See, I see a lot of people who ask me, what was your strategy? See, if I tell my strategy, right, it might not work out for you. All right. So for you to understand and analyze what can be right for you, all right, and how can you just complete all your questions. See, first of all, you won't be able to complete all the questions. All right, for you to complete all the question, you must know all the questions, right? And there are not a lot of possibilities that you'll know all the questions, considering it has GK in it, right? So you have to be very cautious with how many questions you're marking, first of all right. You have to make this you know see, first of all, you have to set the deadlines, and uske alawa, you have to see that when it comes to marks, you have to score more than 200 to 50 marks. All right, so I used to target 250 marks for myself, which concluded around 80 to 85 of the questions. And then after that, you have to make sure that out of these 85 questions, 10 questions will be those questions which I'm not really sure of, but then I'm going to mark it any which ways, taking the risk, because if at all it becomes true, because I'm just feeling confident about it, so that is one sort of question. So in that case, keeping myself in a safe situation, even if I come into the negative marking scheme, then I'll still score more than 200 marks, just because I'm attempting 250 marks question. Now when it comes to strategy of completing all your questions before the deadline, what happens is, maths is one of the sections that is going to take the longest. All right, because in that you have to actually solve the questions, and you're not even aware if you're going to get the answers or not. So what I did was, I used to just basically make sure that I'm solving all the maths question within half an hour. Right after that half an hour used to take reasoning used to take almost half an hour, 45 minutes, considering reasoning has the most amount of questions as well, approximately 36 if I'm not wrong. All right, so it has a lot of questions as well, so you have to do it like within half an hour, 45 minutes max. And then for me, GK used to take maximum of 10 minutes, because it or you don't know it. You don't have to like literally just go ahead and keep thinking about it, and you will just some answer will just pop into your head. That does not work with GK, right? So you just read your questions. If you know it, you mark it. If you don't know it, you just go ahead with that. So, and you have 25 questions, so basically it used to take like 10 minutes for me, and rest of the time I used to make sure that I'm completing my English section within like 20-25 minutes, and I used to have 15 minutes in hand, which was for cross checking, giving some, deep thoughts into the answers that I've already selected, so that if at all, no risks part. So you must complete your exam, like you must have like 15 minutes in hand, so that you can just cross check your answers. So that's how I just planned it, and it just fell right into place because I solved a lot of previous year questions. So I solved approximately around 12 previous year questions, which really helped me understand that okay, this was my pace earlier, but then now till the time I've completed the 12th question, it has really increased. So that is what happens. You have to just practice, every single day. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for guiding us, Sonakshi. Okay, so Mayank Babu has this question: when will this exam will be conducted? Okay, may I answer this,
Yeah,
Sonakshi?
yeah, sure.
Because
Sure,
I was
sure.
reading so many articles, just correct me if I'm wrong. Though
Yeah.
this exam is held twice a year, the first phase happened in February, and this August, again the second phase is happening. So it happens twice. And if you want to have more details, again I'm sharing a link in the chat box. Please have a look at it. Okay, moving ahead. Okay, so again, Sonakshi, I was going through few of the articles, and I got to know that the FCAT caters to two types of commissions.
Yes,
One was
yes.
a permanent commission, and another one, if I remember
Yes,
correctly,
yes. So
short
basically,
service commission.
correct,
Yeah.
correct. So there are two types of commissions that comes into picture for any of the defense forces. It's not really, exclusive to Air Force, but for Army and Navy as well. But when we talk about FCAT exclusively, what happens is it has the short service commission, like you said, and the permanent commission. If you're a girl, all right, so you will be eligible only for the short service commission, which will be eligible for 14 years. Now the question comes here is, what are you going to do after your 14 years of service in Air Force, right? Right after that, government gives you a lot of reservations, and you can, like, if you're an engineer, you can definitely get into some really high post in one of the IT companies, which is an add-on for you because you don't really have to work, or have that many years of experience to get into an IT company. They would just really recruit you, reason being you have served in Army or Air Force for all these years, so you get the reservations and you can get into any sort of field that you want to. All right, you will receive your pension no matter what. But apart from that as well, you'll get into banks, high courts, even Supreme Court for that matter, if you apply for it, and any of the IT industry. So right after 14 years, you can do any of the jobs that you feel like. You have reservations everywhere. Apart from that, for guys, you have to firstly apply for short service commission itself, which is 14 years. And right after that, if you want to continue, you can switch to permanent commission. If you do not wish to continue, then you can obviously go ahead with, some of the other jobs that you want to, and collect pension from the government. So that is what happens, both of the commissions.
Okay. So Sonakshi, you had appeared for this ground duty first for the technical post, then you appeared for the flying branch. For the ground duty post for the technical and non-technical SSC officers, this tenure is of 10 years. Then they can extend later on the 4 years.
For ground duty, it is of 4 years. Sorry, it is of 10 years. That's correct. And then you can like extend it for 4 years again. All right. But then in total, it consists of 14 years. If at all, after 10 years, you think, like I said, right? For guys, it's like this that, after the short service commission, you can go ahead and, enroll yourself for the permanent commission. For girls, it's like this, that after the 10 years, if you want to still continue, you can enroll yourself for 4 more years. But if you don't want to continue, you can just drop out. So that is how it happens.
Okay. So what exactly is the format or the pattern of the exam? If I'll talk about, let's say you just talked about the online test, and then there's an interview as well, and then you just appeared for the EKT. So is this the format same for technical and non-technical as well as for the flying branches?
It is same for everybody. So I'll tell you, when we talk about the exam, FCAT exam, all right, FCAT exam is, again, it is completely explicit of what branch you're gonna get into. All right, that comes into picture on the phase two part of it, which is AFSB. So now we're talking about phase one part of it, which is FCAT. FCAT is an exam that you're gonna give no matter which branch you're gonna get into, all right, or whatever your branch preference is. Now, once you have cleared FCAT, you'll get a mail from them that, okay, you can just select your SSB or AFSB, as you call it, center. All right. Now in AFSB center, what happens is there are four centers altogether in India. You have to choose any one of, as of your preference. Does not matter which center you choose, because everywhere the assessment is going to be the same. Now let's say I chose Gandhinagar for myself. Now let's say if I go to Gandhinagar, there'll be like 5 days of assessment in total. On the very first day, what happens is in my batch, so I'm talking about the time when I got recommended. So in my branch, there were like total of 400 girls. Out of 400 girls, on the very first day, after we gave our two tests, after the two tests, I think only 60 of us got selected, all right, on the first day. So that is called as screened in or screened out. So we 60 girls got screened in, and rest of the people, 340 people, they got screened out. All right, so they just went home. Now for the next 4 days, 60 of us will get assessed for rest of the 16 tests that we have to give. Now, on the first day, there are two tests in total that we talk about. All right. And one is basic reasoning test that you have to give, two parts of it. Second is they'll just show you one picture. From that picture, you have to perceive that picture in a format wherein you can write a story about it. You have to write your story. You'll just be given like 3 minutes. You have to actually assess, analyze the picture, write a story down, and then right after that you have to get into a group discussion wherein publicly you have to speak about your story. And then after that, in a group of 15 people, you have to come to a consensus that okay, out of these 15 stories, this is the one story that we're summarizing. All right, so in the summary part of it, it becomes a fish market, because everybody wants to stand out, and they just keep on yelling their answers that okay, we should just do this, we should just go for this story, etc., etc. So it just gets a fish market. But and nobody really comes up with a summary story of it. But then that does not matter. What matters is how you're presenting yourself there. So after these two tests, 60 people got selected, and right after that you have to jump into these rest of the assessments, wherein you will go through several group activities, because at the end of the day you have to work as a group there. You're never working as an individual in the forces. So there will be like around 10 group activities. It will be even physical activity, it will be reasoning activity. They'll give you some really difficult situations that you have to basically they'll give you these situations wherein you are a group of four people, and you have to make sure that everybody is alive at the end of the day, and all of these people are at different locations. How are you going to manage with a group of four people, and you don't have any sort of armed things, you don't have any vehicle, you don't have basically anything at all? How are you going to manage it? So you have to basically come up with some critical thinking. Presence of mind is really, really important. So these are the group activities that they want you to indulge into. Right after that, you will have some physical activities on a personal level as well, on an individual level. So that is something that you have to take care of. So there are different kinds of assessments, and the major one is the interview. For me, the interview lasted for 1.5 hours, and it was with the wing commander, which is a really high post in Air Force. So it lasted for 1.5 hours, and they just ask you anything. For me, one of the most bizarre question that I was asked was, you have to come back from Croatia to Assam, and what is the route that you're going to take, and how many countries are going to come in between? And frankly, I literally answered it, because we have to go through the geographical maps and the countries that comes into picture. So I was able to answer it, but then a lot of people were not able to answer it. So they just ask you something really bizarre. So you have to be ready with all of the questions that comes up to you. And right after the interview, on the fifth day, which is the result day, you will have to go into this conference room alone, where there will be around, I think, 20 to 25 officers. And these officers are really highly ranked officer, who will be basically sitting in this conference room right in front of you. And all of them are in their uniforms with their badges and all of those things, and it's just a surreal view to view. It's just so unbelievable thing that you're sitting in a room with so many officers in there, and the vice president, vice marshal for that matter as well, Hannah. So it gets really really overwhelming, and they'll just ask you one to two questions in general. And what happens is any one of these people will question you, and you have to basically judge who asked you the question, because you don't even know who asked you the question. So you have to just understand where did the voice come from, and whose body language looks like they're going to answer question you and all of that. So you have to make sure of that you and understanding who is the right person who is asking the question, and then you have to look at that person and answer. So the question is really simple, but then just to make these things out, that who's questioning you at that particular time, wherein you're under such high pressure. So it gets a little tricky, but then that's again an important factor. And then right after that, the result comes in a picture, wherein you understand if you get recommended or not. So out of 400 people, there were only 4 people who got selected in my batch. So it's a huge thing, and these 400 people, all of them were phenomenal, all of them were amazing. And all of these 400 people were there because they cleared FCAT exam. So you cannot make out at any point of time that just because I cleared this with really good marks, I will be able to make through this. No, it's not like that. you know so that is what happened. And right after that, you have to go for the medical test, and after the medical test, you have to have the merit list into picture, which comes out of 3-4 months. So that's the entire process of it. And none of it matters where, basically, if you're selecting any of the branches for yourself in this terms, it does not matter as to how are you going to perform, or what should be the strategy for you or the criteria for you. Because when you're filling the form, you get this option that do you want technical branch, do you want non-technical, and you have to basically rank them in the order. So it comes into preference in that case. Otherwise it does not get matter when you are giving your test and all of that. You are all basically judged on the same panel or the same level. So it does not matter which branch you're going for.
Okay,
Yeah.
this interview particularly seems very intimidating. Okay.
Oh god, it's not like that at all. I wish it's not like that for the students.
Okay. So what I have understood is that the AFSB interview, it could be conducted in stages, if I'm right.
It
As you
could
said.
it is conducted in stages. It
Okay.
is conducted in stages. So basically, in the second day you will have 3-4 tests. In the next day you'll have 3-4 tests again. So you get the schedule, all right, where do you have to go every single day. So it is conducted in phases for sure.
Sonakshi, even I was reading it, I was having conversation with so many candidates. Everyone was telling us how to clear this written exam, but nobody guides us how to, clear this FCAT or SSB process or the interview. How actually you aced an AFSB interview? Because the way you have explained it, it seems really very stressful. How did you
It
train
is.
yourself?
It gets even stressful when you have a job to handle, parallelly. But see, it every you just get driven away towards your goal and your destination if you have the passion for it, is what I believe. See, if you don't want it willingly, if you're not driven towards it because you want it no matter what, I don't think you will be able to achieve it no matter what. All right. So it has to be, it comes mentally. You have to prepare yourself mentally that this is the amount of hard work that I have to put in. This is the amount of mind that I need to put in. And it was not just about bookish knowledge, it was more about your physical activities as well. So you have to wake up early, you have to go for a jog, you have to exercise, you have to build your stamina, you have to do a lot of things. So and that is why it is said being an officer is not easy. All right, it does not come that easy. Class 1 officer is a really respected job throughout India. You get so many perks throughout India. So it is not an easy job. And if it was that easy, obviously everybody would opt for it, right? So to make it a level up, and it is definitely, you can compare it from UPSC as well, not in terms of, the questions that they ask, but the entire selection procedure. All right, because it gets that strenuous for students. Now, for me, how did I do it for the interview specifically? See, for me, there were these mock interviews, all right, on YouTube, that you understand that, these are the question pattern that it's going to be for the first half of the interview, which is half an hour. All right, so that is pretty predictable. All right, they would ask you your strengths, your weaknesses. Now that does not have to be a very simple question. You can't say that my strengths are, I can speak well, or I am really kind, or I am a really hard worker, I'm a leader. You can't say things like that, because if you say you're a leader, you have to prove it to them. How are you a leader? Give me an example where you showed your leadership. All right, so you should be able to come up with an example like that, you know and it should be something which is really personal to you, which happened to you on an individual level. Now you have to prepare for the interviews. All right, now preparation is basically you have to jot down all the questions that can be expected. Now when it comes to interview, for the first 20 minutes you're just asking one question. Now this one question that I'm talking about, what majorly happens here is, they'll ask you, let's say you are the wing commander, you will ask me 20 questions in one go. You'll ask me 20 questions in one go. All these 20 questions are normal questions. Tell me your name, tell me your profession, where do you come from, how many friends do you got, how many teachers do you like, which subject did you like in your school, in your college, what are the extracurricular activities that you used to do, what are the things that you did not used to like, which is that one friend that you do not like till now, and why, the good qualities about your parents, why don't you like them, how do you spend your Sunday, and all of that. So there are like 20 questions that they ask you, and the format might change, the questions might change, but then these are the questions that you can answer to no matter what. These are pretty normal questions, right? But the trick here is, you must be answering all these questions in one go and in the same order. Now, in the same order is the problem here, because you can't remember all those 20 questions in the same order, right? So, for you to be able to, grasp all that questions step by step in your brain is the difficult task, and that you can achieve by practice. Just ask one of your friends to ask you all these questions, and then try and answer at least 10 of those questions in order. All right, so they understand that we're humans. They don't want us to work like robots. They just want to understand how we are dealing with the situation or the stress, because these kind of questions, they bring a lot of stress. You get into a lot of pressure that, okay, I forgot this question, what to do about it, or you just start fumbling because two three questions, they just starts gelling up in your mind in a way that you don't understand that which one to answer first. So it depends on you as to how you're handling the situation and how you're supporting yourself, and that is what they notice over there. They don't want you to answer everything in order. If you do that, that's amazing, that's really amazing. But if you're not able to do that, how you handling that or coping up with that situation, so that is what gets that is what matters there. So that is what I prepared. Right after that, since I knew that I've completed my degree in engineering, they might ask me something from my degree as well. So you might want to look into a few of the major things, or major subjects that you were taught in your engineering or any of your degree for that matter. They might ask you questions for that, because they are aware of it and they actually prepare before you come for the interview. So it's not like they're just asking you questions blankly. Before your interview, they'll take half an hour, 1 hour to prepare a question set for you. They'll know the answers of all the questions. For me, they asked me, how does a microwave work? This was a question that I knew when I was doing my engineering, but then after 2 years, the memories get vague, right? You just don't answer. So if I chose not to answer that question, I told them that I couldn't recall the exact thing, because if you try to fool them that, okay, I know the answer, and if you just are running around the bush, they understand it. They have taken so many interviews, you can't fool them. So you have to be very straightforward with what you're thinking and how you're answering your questions. And it's more about how you're coping up with questions. The interview goes on for 1 hour, not because they want to know everything about you for 1 hour, but because after 1 hour you start to lose your cool. You get really, what do we call it, you it's just a moment of pressure, right? So just being in that situation for a long time, it just makes you feel like, I just want to get it out of this interview round right now. So they sort of try and understand your situation at that point, and they will test you then. So the major tests begin after 45 minutes of your interview. So that's how they do it. So you have to like actually give few mock interviews with your parents, teachers, or your friends, whosoever is ready to take a mock interview, and they just give it, just go for it. And about the questions that can be asked in the interview, there are again a lot of YouTube videos who can help you out with that, because that is what helped me as well. Like just one more thing in the interview, learn everything about defense, learn everything about FCAT, not FCAT, but Air Force. You must know it. You must know every, because you are like literally, gonna be an officer in Air Force. If don't know a single detail about it, you don't qualify to be an officer there. So you have to know everything about it. So just focus on that. And there are few, and every single question will be something that you can definitely answer, but you have to filter out your answer. You must know what is that you're supposed to answer. You don't have to be really honest there. You have to be right, technically right, there is what the key is. So that is what worked for me exactly.
Okay, so you actually explained all the things at length. And with this, I'll take another question. Does English fluency matters in AFCAT exam or interview?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think in my batch, so the first time I gave my AFSB, so I didn't get recommended on the fifth day. So when I told you that only 3 or 4 people get selected, so I wasn't recommended then in the first go. I remember this one girl who was not fluent with English at all. And she did her BCom, if I'm not wrong. She was not in my group, so I'm not really aware of what she did. And no one expected her to get selected. But then she was selected, was a major point there. Majorly because she might have just showcased some phenomenal features that a leader must have, you know. So you get assessed in detail in these 4 days. You are under CCTV coverage for the entire day, except for the time you're sleeping. So even if you're coming out of your room, you are under CCTV surveillance. You have to wear your chest number no matter what, because they are assessing you. So I think she might have done something really phenomenal, and she was not that fluent with English is what we remember. So it is not important. What is important is you're able to communicate well, you're able to showcase what you're trying to think and talk about, is what is important. That's it.
And with this, I'm taking up another question. Ashish Kera, he's a father, and he has a question. I will be attending seminar for my daughter. Seriously, feeling glad that you will be attending this. Who intends to join Air Force would like to know few preparation strategy. Though you have already explained it, still.
Um, See, for me, I'm not sure if your daughter is in school yet or she's doing her graduation or whatever, but then the first step would be for her to complete her graduation, be it in any field. Once the graduation is complete, you once she's 20 years old, basically. Once she's 20 years old, she becomes eligible to apply for FCAT. Just apply for FCAT, give exam. Once she gives exam, she basically understands that, okay, this is the paper format and this is how I'm going to prepare it. It's not important that you must clear everything in one go. If you do, it's just well and good. But you just understand, you get the syllabus through YouTube. There are 4 sections. She might be good in reasoning and English already. For GK and mathematics, she can prepare for 1, 1, 2, 3 months. Depends on how good she is with mathematics or GK. And right after that, once she's prepared, she must give her exam. If she gets selected, go for AFSB. That's a very again, like I said, right, it's if you're getting into AFSB, do not be hopeful that you'll get selected, because the possibility is 3 out of 400, or 2 out of 400, or 4 out of 400. So it is really less. So for you, your goal should be, you should be just be yourself. You should just portray yourself in a way that you can be an actual leader. You're helping people out. You're being that one compassionate person who's working as a team, but on an individual level as well, they are excelling. So that's how you have to basically prepare yourself in a way. You can't just expect you to, okay, these are the qualities that I need to portray over there. I go to the FCAT center and then I just start portraying it. You can't do it. You have to practice it thoroughly. It might take 1 year, it might take 10 years. So you just go there, and there are possibilities that you'll get selected if you don't leave any of the stones unturned. So that's how you do it.
Considering the time left, I'm sharing a poll here so that we could understand whether you like this webinar or not. So here you can see a poll on your screen. So the question one says, whether you like this session helpful or not. So you can reply it in a yes or a no. The question two gives the option from 0 to 10. 0 is being less likely, 10 is being highest. Coming back to you, Sonakshi, meanwhile we are having this poll, let's answer a few more questions. Rinku has this question: is AFSB the same thing as SSB?
It is, well, technically, yes. Technically, yes. In SSB, it is mostly for, if you're going by NDA entry or, any of the tech entries, or for the Army background courses, or, for the Navy background things, then yes, it is for SSB. FCAT is only one defense exam in the country which, makes you, if you clear it, it makes you a class 1 officer, all right, or a grade A officer. And that is why it is explicitly called as AFSB, which is Air Force Selection Board. So it is basically, I think it's, mostly because of the nomenclature, that because it's, it belongs to Air Force, and that is why it is called as AFSB. I don't think there's a lot of difference in that at all. There might be few obstacles that you will see, or there might be few tests that you will see, a couple of tests that might differ, but there are not a lot of difference for sure. So it's technically the same.
Okay, next up we have a question: how to dress up for the interview?
Dress up as you feel like, be comfortable is the key. So when I went there for the first time, we were under this impression that you have to, obviously you have to look presentable. So we basically dressed up in a suit and blazers, tie and all of that. But then there were people who were dressed up in kurti and normal kurti and leggings. So you can just don't wear anything extravagant. You can't go there in jeans and all of that. But then yes, anything that is formal for girls is fine, and for boys it's just suit, right? So you can just wear suit. If it's summers, do not wear your blazers, just, just a tie and short and pant is just good to go. For girls, it's kurti, leggings, and a suit set, if at all. You can also wear skirts if at all you like, the A line but 3/4 length. So that is also something that you can wear, but it completely depends on your comfortableness, how you're comfortable at.
So next up we have a question of Shivam Thakur. He is asking about previous year question papers. Is it available anywhere? Okay. So for that, I'm sharing a link in the chat box. You can have a look at it and you can fetch all the question papers or the mock test. You can prepare it. Okay. So the next question we have received from Bikram, and he's asking how to prepare for mathematics particularly.
All right. So for me, I think, all right. So how do you prepare for mathematics? So see, it depends on your grasping level. Yeah. See, if you're not that good with mathematics, I would say, there are few YouTube videos who are dedicated to FCAT exam. Who are dedicated to FCAT exam. Find those YouTube videos, and these guys will literally teach you from scratch these questions that even a fifth grader can do. These are the questions that they'll start from, and they'll go to, to the extremes of it within 1 month. All right, so it depends on how much time you're investing. You can complete it in 1 week as well. Well, I'm talking about one of the topics, all right, so you can complete it in 1 week as well. And they go to the extremes. All right, so you need to understand if you want to start from scratch, or if you can just start from the mid part of it, or what are the questions that you type. So basically, what are you looking for me, I was looking for different type of questions. I was not looking to start from scratch. So my point was, I just used to, open any of the YouTube videos. They used to like show 3 4 questions of different types. Then I randomly used to go to some another YouTube video of the same topic. They used to show some different kind of questions, etc. So for me, that was my major pain point, that I have to, work on the approach and all of that. For you, you have to, again, YouTube is the key, guys. All right, YouTube is where you have to go. YouTube karo jitna ho sakta hai. YouTube is, that one stop point where you have to go. You will find all type of questions, all type of topics, and for all the 4 segments of FCAT. All right, so just prepare from there. Jot it down. All right, just write it and learn it. Don't do it mentally, don't do it virtually. So that is what the key is.
Okay, one last question for this session. Gitanjali
Yeah.
has this question: can a hypermetropic people appear for this exam? If yes, how much optical power is permeable? If you have any. Okay.
So you can definitely appear for the exams. That's not a problem. Again, since there are three branches, like I spoke of, you can appear from the non-technical branches. You can appear for the technical branches as well. You cannot opt for the flying officer branch. Uh, Reason being, if you're being the the flying branch officer, you have to be able to see everything with your naked eyes. You cannot put on specs because you have to, when you're flying the jet, there are some other goggles that you have to put in, so you cannot just work with your specs and those goggles at the same time. And that is why they don't allow it. There was a time, I think 3 4 years back, when they never used to allow people even in the technical and non-technical branches with specs, but then right now, since last 3 4 years, they've allowed it. So you can definitely go ahead and check out the technical and non-technical branches, because these two branches serves right as well. Yeah.
Okay. So it's time for us to wrap up this session. So what we understood today, we understood what FCAT is, its eligibility criteria, time management, and educational qualification for the flying and the ground branches, preparation strategy, AFSB phases, important topics, and of course, we dealt with your queries. Thank you so much, Sonakshi, for guiding us and clearing all our doubts.
It's my pleasure that I attended a session like this. I hope some of you, if at all you have any questions, guys, any of these students, you might just want to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I might just help you on a personal level as well. If at all you have any more questions about it, I think everything is there on Google. If you are so passionate about it, if you really want it, I think you will just find out a way to get through it, get all the information through Google or the FCAT official website. Everything is there. I did not have any mentor with myself. Even if you don't have it, you can still go there and reach your goal at the destination. So that is what you should keep in mind. Yeah. I'm glad I was here. Thank you for inviting me, Shilpa, for this particular part.
Thank you so much, Sonakshi, for giving us time.
You
And thank you to all of you for being the part of this session. With this, I am Shilpa signing off. Till then, take care and keep checking our portal for the upcoming webinar. And all the best for the FCAT exam.
Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe our YouTube channel.